Hello, I'm Janet Alvarez for New to the Street with FinTech TV. We have a remarkable story today with NRx Pharmaceuticals. His CEO, Jonathan Javitt, joins us today to tell the transformative story of new ketamine applications that are reaching the market. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So ketamine has been used for many years now as an off-label treatment for suicidal depression as well as other forms of mental illness. Can you give us a little bit of the history of ketamine and where we are today?
Yeah, it's actually one of those wonderful accidental discoveries of medicine. It actually started in 1987 when my younger, smarter, better-looking brother, Dan Javitt, was doing a psychiatry residency, trying to figure out why does phencyclidine, otherwise known as angel dust, cause acute psychosis. And he figured out that it binds to a specific location, what's called the NMDA receptor of the brain. And for 10 years, that was everybody's brand new model for understanding schizophrenia. Along comes Dr. Rob Berman and John Crystal at Yale, and they said, well, let's learn more about this. We can't give phencyclidine to human beings because it's way too dangerous, but ketamine is the first cousin. It binds to the same place in the brain, but it doesn't bind permanently. So they got a protocol at Yale to give ketamine to supposedly normal people to measure the hallucinations. And lo and behold, a bunch of those people called him up the next day and said, Doc, whatever you gave me yesterday, I need some more of it because I've been depressed for 20 years and this is the first day I feel great. So that's how the discovery of ketamine and depression was made. It went over to the NIH. Carlos Zarate started playing with it in protocols at the NIH, and they discovered that not only does ketamine decrease depression, but it can have an almost immediate effect on decreasing suicidality.
It's remarkable.
So we're now going to FDA with data on more than 1,000 patients, some from a clinical trial run by the French government, some from clinical trials funded by the NIH, some from clinical trials funded by a new U.S. agency called PCORI that's based on the Medicare budget, that show that ketamine is more effective than placebo. It's more effective than midazolam, which is a drug that makes you feel funny but doesn't treat depression, so they call it an active placebo. Ketamine is even better than electroshock in decreasing depression and suicidality.
And of course, you are particularly concerned about suicidality in communities like the veterans community, where PTSD often complicate the picture. Ketamine offering real hope there. You're announcing today.
Yeah, in fact, if you looked at the 100-day cabinet meeting, President Trump asked Secretary Collins, what are you doing about suicide in vets? Because we're still losing 20 to 22 active duty and veterans every day from suicide.
It's tragic.
I fly as an aviator for the Coast Guard Auxiliary in my spare time. Last year, the Coast Guard lost 14 shipmates to suicide. So it's clearly an active problem. And Secretary Collins said to the president that psychedelic drugs, and ketamine is certainly a psychedelic drug, are top on the list of solutions for that problem.
So NRx Pharmaceuticals doing some exciting work on ketamine. You have an intravenous form of ketamine in the works. Tell us about it and where it stands today.
So we do have an IV form of ketamine. One of the things we realized when we went to reformulate ketamine is this drug hasn't been formulated since the Vietnam War. And when it was originally formulated, they put a toxic preservative, benzethonium chloride, into the bottle so that you could use the same bottle for more than one patient. Well, that kind of multi-use is no longer legal in the U.S. Hospitals can't use one vial of medicine for more than one patient. And over the last 50 years, we've learned that benzethonium chloride is terrible stuff. You can't even legally put it into a hand cleaner anymore. We've taken that class of compounds out of eye drops because we found out that, and I was originally an ophthalmologist, we found out that benzalkonium chloride is toxic to the cornea, toxic to the conjunctiva, toxic to the nerves. So there's just no reason for it to be in ketamine. And we've now shown that you can have 3 years of shelf stability with a preservative-free ketamine, and we've patented that formulation. So not only do we plan to introduce ketamine to treat suicidal depression and PTSD, we plan to go after the $750 million ketamine market that exists today and replace that Vietnam-era formulation with a new, safe formulation.
Now, there is a shortage of ketamine currently in this country. this helps alleviate that shortage as well.
So according to the AHP, American Association of Hospital Pharmacists, yes, there is a ketamine shortage. It's been on and off the official FDA drug shortage list. And because of that, we expect that we're going to get priority review on the drug application we filed today.
Now, when investors think about the ketamine market, when they think about the psychedelics market, does it have the potential to explode? Where is the growth coming from?
Well, the growth is coming from all of the people who have been getting ineffective forms of treatment for ketamine, for suicidality, people who wind up spending weeks in psychiatric hospitals, people who get electroshock treatment, people, there's a $3 billion and or larger market of old-line antidepressants, all of which have a suicide warning on the label. So there's right now, just the tip of the iceberg is being treated with ketamine, with transcranial magnetic stimulation, with this whole new generation of treatments that are called neuroplastic. Neuroplastic means that they generate new connections in the brain. So you think of a computer, somebody took a laser, etched a piece of silicon, maybe put 5 million transistors onto that piece of silicon. Those transistors may turn on and off, but the circuits that connect them will never change until you smash it with a hammer. The brain is completely different. The cells are constantly reaching out and forming new connections with other brain cells. That's called neuroplasticity. And what we're learning is that drugs that cause neuroplasticity, devices like transcranial magnetic stimulation that cause neuroplasticity, hyperbaric oxygen causes neuroplasticity, all of these treatments not only fight depression and PTSD, we're learning that they can be effective against autism, they can be effective against Parkinson's. We think they may have a potential to be effective against Alzheimer's and other forms of cognitive disorder. So if you really ask, what could this revolution mean? This revolution could affect diseases that account for about a third of our $5 trillion healthcare budget in the United States.
Jonathan, that's all very exciting. We congratulate you on this remarkable work. What else is in the pipeline right now for NRx Pharmaceutical?
So what we've realized is that although ketamine and the other drug we're developing, cycloserine, are enormously promising as neuroplastic drugs, it's not the whole story. As I said, you have these other treatments, transcranial magnetic stimulation, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, digital therapeutics, and very few people are putting them together properly. You told us about a really forward-thinking doctor at University of Pennsylvania, but people like that doctor are few and far between. So what we're doing is aggregating really the best-in-class clinics out there, people who have been combining these modalities for at least 5 years, some 10 years, and bringing them together under the umbrella of Hope Therapeutics, which currently is wholly owned by NRx Pharmaceuticals. We've announced the first $15 million of acquisitions that hopefully will close this month. We've said that our target is to have $100 million of revenue by the end of the year. And we hope to do for suicidal depression and PTSD what DaVita and Fresenius did for renal failure and dialysis.
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can investors, where can our audience learn more about NRx Pharmaceuticals and its office?
Well, you can go to our webpage. You can read our securities filings. You can read what analysts at BTIG, HC Wainwright, Boral, and Ascendiant have said about us. And if you want to know more, just give us a call.
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in to New to the Street on FinTech TV. I'm Janet Alvarez, and it is always a pleasure to bring you the story that transformed medical science, industry, and financial market.